All right, Mike, are we ready? I think
Yeah, let's do
we've
it.
got an amazing crew with us. I think we can dive in. We're so honored, and we've all worked in the industry, so we know how busy you are, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this conversation today. We are here to introduce you to Salesforce for the Arts, and I am privileged to be here with my colleague Mike Brown and our partner and colleague TJ Christensen. I'd love to have them introduce themselves, and I will kick us off. Mike, you want to get us started?
Absolutely. Thanks, Val. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Mike Brown. I'm a senior solution engineer at salesforce.org, focusing specifically on the arts and culture sector, which is really exciting for me because that is my background. I spent 18 years at the Exploratorium and 6 years at Acme Ticketing, who is a close Salesforce partner for ticketing. So excited to be here today. TJ.
Hey, Mike, and thank you for inviting me to the webinar. My name is TJ Christensen. I'm the founder and CEO of Blue Gator. We're a Salesforce consulting firm that specializes in helping arts and cultural venues leverage Salesforce to operationalize data and unlock revenue across the organization. My background is I've spent my entire career in hospitality and working in attractions and amusement parks and nonprofit venues and things like that. And this stuff is in my blood. So excited to be here today.
I'm with you, TJ. It's in my blood as well. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, and I started in the entertainment industry, and I moved on to lead marketing for 3 nonprofits. Most recently, I was chief marketing officer at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts here in San Francisco. And I went through a process of moving my organization to Salesforce. So about 2 years ago, completed that process. And it's an honor to spend time with all of you today and really take you through what that journey has been like. So welcome and thank you. We are going to be giving you a high-level overview of the solutions that Salesforce has to support the needs of cultural institutions. Mike is going to take us through an incredible live demo. What does all of this actually look like? We're going to take you through what we really feel it's important for you to see. And of course, we can take more time with your individual organizations to dive in. I'm going to have a conversation with TJ to really unpack what we've seen today. And we want to get into really the questions that you have. So, don't hesitate during our conversation today. Please share what questions you have as we're going through. We're going to close out with a discussion with TJ. It's going to talk about operationalizing data. Data is probably the most important part of today's conversation. So really honored to have you with all of us today. And we want to make sure, give you a quick reminder that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Yes, that is correct. We want to make sure that you make buying decisions based on what is readily available, currently available. So we're going to be talking about a lot today, and we will make that explicitly clear. And again, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. This is just a few images of some of the cultural institutions that we're honored to work with and support and be in conversation with. So first, we are going to do an introduction to Salesforce for the Arts. Mike, I'm going to hand over to you. But first, please let us know while we're going through all of the segments in our conversation today, what's top of mind for you. We know that growing visitation, getting people in the door, membership, marketing and engagement, growing our income and fundraising, well, these are just some of the themes that come up for us in our daily conversations, but please feel free to use the chat and let us know how we can make this a valuable conversation for you today. Jesse just said growing membership. All right, we will make sure we cover that. So Mike, let's get started. And again, thank you everyone for being with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to jump in here. So first, we want to just convey to you that we understand that your organizations do much more than invite visitors to walk through your doors and experience the many amazing things that your organizations have to offer. Many things happen behind the scenes that allow you to be front and center for your visitors on a day in and day out basis. Some of those things you'll see here around the wheel. There's internal challenges and external pressures that don't make these things necessarily easy. So we want technology to be front and center and to help, not hinder, and get you on your way to accelerating your mission and driving those relationships. And if I was to pick on, let's say, one or two things on this slide, I'd pick on siloed systems and siloed teams being really top of mind with respect to barriers to being great, essentially. And thinking about how those things happen. And this slide's a little bit busy, but it's reality, right? Thinking about moving from left to right, oftentimes when we look at technology stacks at cultural organizations, they've been procured over decades and have sometimes been selected through a department-specific lens. Like, what is the solution my department needs to do what I need to do? And then thinking about integrations or data sharing or building that stakeholder 360 may be a secondary or tertiary consideration. And we're talking about legacy selections, right? And what happens then, those stakeholder data and engagement systems are fragmented. You try to tie them together with integrations that are complex and often manual or incomplete. And that leads to departmental and data silos that then fuel disconnected stakeholder functions and experiences. And so our goal is to tie all of this together for you. And when we think about the most common and most top of mind silos, these 5 tend to bubble up to the top of many organizations' lists of things they want to integrate or bring together so that you can see a full context of a relationship with your stakeholders. And sometimes they're multifaceted, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So our vision for the arts and culture world is to enable you to connect with your colleagues and your stakeholders in a whole new way. And doing this by building a stakeholder 360. Notice that the words colleagues and stakeholders are called out specifically on this slide. That's intentional because we're not just talking about how to organize your technology so that you can speak in a very personalized way to your external stakeholders. We're also talking about organizing your technology so that your teams can be brought together, your data can be brought together, and you can collaborate in a whole new way. And so how does the arts and culture industry do this? There are 2 common paths and one somewhat new path I'd like to introduce you to today. So in terms of legacy options, one is all-in-one systems. And those sound really great on paper. You know, I've heard the pitch myself a couple of times when I was back at the Science Center. But the reality is that none of them do everything. And then there's a hidden dependency on point solutions, which then deviates from the core promise of being a single system to empower your entire organization. The next option is legacy point solutions. And there are some amazing options out there. But the fact is that they are point solutions. And then the onus is on you to integrate them with whatever tools you have. And oftentimes that creates additional admin burden, incomplete integrations, and sometimes integrations that aren't timely. So you missed out on opportunities to connect with your guests, potentially while they're on site. And TJ is going to talk about that a little bit later in our presentation today. So today we're really talking about the Salesforce platform. It's a platform approach. It's a different way. We should play a game. How many times do we say platform? I think that's 3 already. It's probably going to be 100 at the time we're done today. But every icon you see around that wheel is a different solution offering that Salesforce has. And they're all natively connected so that you don't have to worry about costly, time-intensive administrative burden for integrating those systems. At the very bottom of that wheel is an important phrase. It's called trusted cloud. And that's what I want to spend the next few minutes talking you through. So with respect to the trusted cloud, there's 4 words that come to mind: trust, security, innovation, and scale. You can always trust Salesforce to manage your data in a very secure way. We publish our uptime at trust.salesforce.com. You can view that at any time. We have industry-leading security and privacy to protect your data from both physical and virtual threats. We actually have one of the best bug bounty programs out there. And we have a good article on salesforce.com about how we invite hackers to actually hack our platform and share any potential vulnerabilities they find with our engineering team so that they can patch them to prevent bad actors from getting in. Innovation, we have 3 major releases every year so that your investment in Salesforce will always be up to date with the latest technology. And then scale, you're in great company. There are 50,000 plus other nonprofit organizations leveraging Salesforce. And there's a great community out there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So on top of this cloud is our metadata layer. This is where the magic really starts to happen. So thinking about what that means, Salesforce is very configurable. So when you log in, your view of the Salesforce data, the screens you see, the objects you interact with, is going to be personalized to your role in the organization. So if you're a volunteering manager, someone in development, someone in marketing, your screens may look a little bit different because it's optimized for you. We pride ourselves on being declarative development friendly, which means if you need to change some page layouts or build an email template, you're often going to use clicks and not code. But if you like to code, we can do no code, low code, pro code, the full spectrum. We're also mobile out of the box. So any team member who has a login can get to Salesforce on their mobile device, which is great for meeting donors out in the field or just brushing up on KPIs when you're on your way into your next meeting. Automation, so workflows to automate some of those things that you might be spending some time on today, like running reports or creating general ledger entries for finance. That can all happen behind the scenes. And last but not least, intelligence. So adding a layer of intelligence to hopefully drive you toward a data-driven culture with insights that are faster, it helps you move quicker. And now looking outside of Salesforce, we have open APIs. So you can connect into external systems, let's say ticketing systems, social media platforms, your ERP, HR systems, accounting, many other options there. And you can bring that data into Salesforce and you can push Salesforce data out very seamlessly. On top of all of this are our pre-built apps. And these are purpose-built for a variety of purposes. For example, sales or service, community to allow your external stakeholders to have a view into this rich consolidated data, engagement analytics. And these are all built with that 80-20 rule in mind, where literally if you turn them on, they work on day one. But that extra 20% is what partners like TJ and Blue Gator help you unlock, is that they build it out for your organization so that it is exactly what you need and all the clutter is gone, it's purpose-built, and it really helps to accelerate your day-to-day life. Underneath all of this, this is one of those forward-looking statements, we've got generative AI and predictive AI to help you arrive at those conclusions faster and expedite some of your day-to-day tasks. Both generative and predictive AI are live in several of our apps today, and they're going to be built throughout the platform in the coming releases. And some great examples are with generative AI, pre-building a donor recognition letter based on that donor specific context with your organization, or predictive AI looking at someone's ticket purchases and recommending that next event that aligns with their interests based on past performance. Lots to talk about there. And then you're not in this alone. So we have a rich community out there in the ecosystem of 4,500 App Exchange apps. Many are free, some are paid to extend your investment in Salesforce. Certified partners like TJ have to go through a very rigorous process to get that certification stamp so you know that they are experts in Salesforce and bring that industry and domain expertise to accelerate your investment and time to value. And last but certainly not least, the Trailblazer community. That's folks like you. So out there, Salesforce users, admins, developers, architects, all those folks out there who have solved questions that you may have. So as you're getting to learn Salesforce, you can post up in that Trailblazer community. And I bet chances are someone has tried to do what you're trying to do, may have a solution for you. So it's a great resource to ensure that you get the most out of your investment. Now, there's the last thing I'm going to say about the platform. You take everything I just said, and then we transition this and transform it into the #1 CRM for nonprofits. So what Nonprofit Cloud does is it takes all of that goodness from the platform, the pre-built apps, the AI, the configuration, and it packages it up with industry-leading user-centric workflows and automations that's configured for nonprofits to boost efficiency, drive insights, and accelerate your mission. And this is the true differentiator for Salesforce. We are the only one out there doing this in the way that we are, with a true platform approach, with an ecosystem of thousands of solutions that can give you options as your needs evolve over time. And connected to this is Marketing Cloud. So gone are the days of having to export lists and manually share those with your teams. These connect in automatically, and TJ is going to talk a bit about that later on. So really excited to tell you about this. And when you do this well, here's an illustration of how your data could look within Salesforce. So introducing you here to the Morris family. So looking at the data around the wheel here, you can look at fundraising data. So how have they supported you, both as individuals in the family and as a collective household unit? Looking at their marketing and communications preferences. So are they subscribed to e-newsletters? What have they opted into? SMS, chat, email, phone calls, etc. Service and support. Many organizations don't know that Salesforce has telephony solutions. So in your reservation center, if folks are calling in, field trip teachers, donors, members, when your team answers the phone, the contact record can pop up and you can see the relationship they have with your organization. Upcoming tickets, right? Past purchases, membership, so on and so forth. If these folks are volunteers, you can see their profile, their upcoming shifts. You can start to track their experiential aspects or attributes of their relationship with you, favorite exhibits. And then last but certainly not least, purchases. So we have a variety of integrations with ticketing partners out there. To name a few, Acme, Ticketure, Vivart, Elevent, and a number of others in the ecosystem that we can bring in through our API layer, as well as membership, retail, and cafe. So you have that true 360-degree view of your constituents, which is a great segue into our next section, which is the live demonstration. And in our demonstration today, we're going to look at the Morris family. So I want you to imagine that the Morris family is a local family to your organization. They've been members for many years. Andy and Anna here go to camp every year. They love it. Mom and dad are avid volunteers and financial supporters of the museum, but they haven't visited in a little while. They haven't given in a little while. So we're going to log into Salesforce as a development team member, and we're going to get reacquainted with the Morris family, and specifically Rachel. We're then going to find other donors like Rachel and reach out to them, and then steward them and solicit them for a gift. And as we look at this flow, I want you to remember one thing, that every year, we survey our nonprofit customers, and on average, those customers that were surveyed experienced a 49% decrease or increase, in donations. I have another slide that says decrease in admin time. It's a 50% decrease in admin time. This one is 49% increase in donations. So let's go and take a look at how this might work in Salesforce. So I am going to be logged in here to Salesforce, and I'm greeted by a home screen. And again, I'm looking through a development person's lens. Right here on my home screen, I've got access to rich KPIs to help me track things that are important to me, like year-to-date revenue, donors, average gift amount, donors by state or source. I've got my membership sales here by level, so I can see how we're doing. We can bring in events and tasks from third parties. For example, we've got Gmail and Outlook integrations. So you can see things in both places to reduce what we call virtual swivel chairing. And as we need to get to know Rachel a little bit more, I can find her record a number of ways. So because I was in her record recently, she's going to be here in my recent records list. If I was not in her record recently, I can use this global search bar at the top and just start typing. If I know her email, if I know her phone number, her last name, I can also find her record that way too. This is leveraging Einstein AI to give you search result recommendations based on what you type and what you searched for in the past. And there she is right there. But I also see her recent donations and her household as well. So let's pop into her contact record. One also thing I should note about what you're seeing here today is that every screen in Salesforce is configurable. I mentioned that back on that platform slide, but that was so like 10 minutes ago. But everything you see here is configurable. And that's what TJ is going to help you do. So all these screens, whether you're a volunteer manager, a development leader, these are going to be optimized for your viewpoint. And when I log in, something that gives me a lot of confidence right away is our duplicate check right at the top. We have found no duplicates of this contact. So I know this is all the data I have about Rachel. I don't have to worry about some other donations or really important history that's siloed somewhere else. We have a highlights panel at the top, so I can quickly see our relationship with Rachel. She's an ally level volunteer, a sustaining donor, been a member since 2008, and she's currently in the donor circle. And if I happen to be a new employee, you can use something called Path. And this is something where you build this in and you say, depending on where you are in your relationship with this person, here are a couple of guidances for success and some key fields, some things we want to know about this particular contact. For example, if I go back here to volunteering, we can see we want to know her areas of interest, capture her email. And then as we move up to a one-time visitor, let's get the birth date so we can send her birthday offers. As she becomes an engaged visitor, let's make sure we know she's opting into our text messaging so we can alert her to opportunities when she's on site or even in the area, and so on and so forth. And these are things that you would build in over time to give your teams kind of benefit of that historical knowledge that everyone has at the organization. Just going to go ahead and minimize that for now. And right here top, we see that, not all relationships are monolithic, right? So Rachel is much more than just a donor. She's also a visitor, member, donor, volunteer, teacher. And we can leverage these to speak to her in a way that makes the most sense. And this right here, in my opinion, is revolutionary. I used to work at a museum and I knew everything about our visitors through the visitation lens. I didn't have a lot of line of sight into what they did in membership. Were they a volunteer? Did they attend professional development classes with us? Because I only looked at our ticketing data. Salesforce gives you the opportunity to bring all that together so you can really see the full context. If you happen to have animals, you can even show the favorite animals. And lots of good stuff here, right? As we scroll down, just some basics here. I'm getting reacquainted with Rachel. I can see our contact attributes, how she likes to be engaged with us, what her preferred channels are. Over on the right, I can see some of this AI I talked about earlier. So we can leverage some predictions. And this is a demo environment, so some of these may not make sense for Rachel based on some of the data you've already seen, but likelihood to become a first-time donor or a top donor. Looking at her purchase history, saying, let's suggest an add-on tour package or a membership upgrade next time we see her. Bringing in third-party data like Wealth Engine or iWave to extend what you already know about your visitors to make sure we're maximizing the giving potential of our various stakeholders. And we have activity on the side. Activity is all the emails, the phone calls, the meetings, everything you've had with Rachel. And this is really critical because we know no one is at a science center or a museum for their entire career, or should I say very few. I know there are some examples. Folks come and go, and sometimes, that email history is siloed in their inbox. And we don't have the benefit of that when those folks leave the organization. So one great way to protect against that is to use our Gmail or Outlook integrations. And let me show you a quick look at that right now. So this is Gmail, right? And it works the same way in Outlook, okay? So you'll see in the upper right-hand side of the screen, there's the Salesforce Cloud. If I click on that, it opens up the Salesforce pane. And right here, without selecting any of the emails, I can look at reports. So I can look at my membership sales, my donations. I can look at any tasks that I might have that are integrated. And you might have seen this on my homepage in Salesforce. So it's a two-way sync. So I can build tasks in Gmail or Outlook, have those sync to Salesforce. I can build them in Salesforce, have them sync here. Your colleagues can assign tasks to you. So we want to kind of blur that line and bridge that gap between where you probably spend a lot of time in CRM and in your inbox. Now, watch what happens when I click on Rachel's email. It looks like she sent us something. So I hope you are well, looking at the events calendar, but over here on the right side, we pulled up her contact record. So I can see related donations, I can see her household, I can click into her account and view some of that same data we just saw in Salesforce. She's a visitor, member, donor, volunteer, teacher, right? And the goal here is to give you this information in the context of your workflow, so you don't have to go switch over to Salesforce and then come back or go ask a colleague. It's right here. And again, just like Salesforce, it's purpose-built by persona. So if you're a volunteering manager, you might see something different than a development manager, and so on and so forth. And as I click reply, we have options to use pre-built email templates from Salesforce. We can track opens. We can send preferred meeting times. And most importantly, you can log this into Salesforce so that everyone has the benefit of this context when they speak with Rachel next. Now, not to worry, we know some emails should be confidential. So you have the opportunity to mark them as such and control visibility to a certain number of people in your organization. This for me would have been a game changer if I had it when I was at the organization I worked at many, many years ago. So now back into Salesforce. So here we are again. So all those emails would get logged here on the activity screen. We also have a view into relationships. So who is Rachel connected to? As I'm getting reacquainted with her record, this might be key because I can see, oh my goodness, she is a coworker of Bob, and I know Bob, he's a donor. Maybe I can leverage that relationship to get her to advance on her pledged gift. I can see organization affiliations. This allows me to potentially maybe let Rachel know, hey, JP Morgan Chase Foundation, where you're currently employed, has a matching gift program. Don't forget to reach out to the contact there. And here's a template for you to use to make sure that we benefit from that relationship. We have her purchase history. And this for me is one of the most important screens we're going to show today in Salesforce. So bringing together ticketing, membership, and retail on a single screen. And this gives you the ability to really view the full engagement history of Rachel and contacts like her. What events is she attending? What's her membership history? You can see it right here, all stacked up. She's grown from dual all the way to donor circle over the past 5 years. And then ticketing history, if I click in there to view all, we can see general admission, workshops, special events. She's done everything. And you can see here, she's moved from paid tickets to free because she became a member right around 2008. So this is where the magic really happens. And then if you're a new staff member, like I'm pretending to be today, this engagement chart is super helpful because I can use this slide down the bottom and just scroll back into time and just see all the different ways Rachel has engaged with us and all the tasks that we've done with sharing impact reports or inviting her to major donor events. That's all right here on the screen. Very easy for me to follow. So now that I know Rachel, before I reach out to her and ask for a gift, I might want to do a one-to-many thing instead. And to do that, I'm going to go to one of my contact lists up here, and I'm going to take a look at other donors who have attributes similar to Rachel. We know that she's interested in family programs, so I can look here at a pre-built list that's already segmented for me that says, okay, anyone who has an interest in some level of family programs. And how I did that, it's actually up here in the upper right-hand side. I clicked on this filter and I said, okay, if your area of interest includes family, youth programs, or camps, go ahead and add them to this list. And so you can do this with minimum giving or any other attribute in the CRM. And what I can do is I can go ahead and add them to a campaign so that I can track ROI on what I'm spending here. So I can do family interest, there we go, support family programs, and add them in there. I've actually already done that, so I'm going to cancel out of this. Let's just pop in there right now. So we'll go to our all here, all active or running campaigns. Oops, sorry. So I hope this is making sense so far. Okay, sound good? Okay, so click into there. We can see all of our campaign history. And as folks are going to be giving gifts, we can track their engagement. We can track the amount of dollars it has cost us to put this campaign on and how much ROI we're truly getting from the campaign. So a lot of really rich metrics here for us to use. And from here, once you're in Salesforce, and I talked about the kind of necessity of the ability to have all the contacts together in a list and sync that over to marketing, you can actually do that directly from within Salesforce. So one example here is our account engagement tool. I can just click into this. I don't have to export that email list. It's right here in Salesforce. So I can go over here and I can set some automations that allow me to connect with a group of stakeholders very autonomously. So I'll go to my sustained giving series. And what you're going to see here, once I zoom in, is that it's a smart system. So if I click in, we can grab a list of donors or any segment you like. We can send them an email, and then we can wait to see, do they open it or do they not? And then we can put them on a different journey depending on their engagement with our outreach. And so what this is aiming to do is to get you out of the weeds and automate those routine tasks and then score your stakeholders so that we get smarter every time we do this. And every time we do it, our outreach is even more and more successful. And then last but not least, let me pivot back into our development lens and just give you an eye into some of the dashboards that we offer. Many of these are out of the box and the others are easily configurable based on the data you already have in Salesforce. So looking here at my development operations dashboard, I can see my member attendance, year-to-date general attendance, membership sales, and how we're doing here with annual donations to our target. This is something I used to spend a lot of time on when I was at the Science Center, is comparing actual attendance and revenue to our budget. You can just load your budget numbers in here and compare. The answer is right there. And what's also really neat about this is that you can subscribe to these dashboards. You can have them delivered to your inbox daily, weekly, monthly, and even when certain things are changed, right? So you can always get fresh dashboards. You also have the ability to collaborate around this data. So I'm looking at this member attendance and I'm thinking, you know what? I thought that number was bigger. And before you walk into that team meeting, you can go ahead and collaborate around this and tag your colleague. It takes a screenshot of that dashboard component at that point in time, because remember, these are all live dashboards and they're going to change as data comes in. So you can tag a coworker, let's say Harry, and then ask them a quick question before you head into your meeting. So what this is intending to do is give you the ability to make data-driven decisions with a single platform designed to unify your data and bring your teams more closely together. And so with that, let me hand things off to TJ and Valerie to talk us through your experience.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That was awesome. I love the I love the overview. So we just saw a lot. Mike just ran through a lot just from the deck and also what we saw natively in Salesforce. And we've seen a couple questions come in on the Q&A from Caroline and Chris and Steve. We'll be answering those at the end of the webinar. So just hang in there and we'll get to your questions. They're really good. But what I'd like to do is I just want to take a moment to sort of digest, what we've learned here through a lens of a real story. And, Val has spent decades in marketing, both on the commercial side and in entertainment and on the nonprofit side. And most recently, the CMO of San Francisco's Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. And Val, I know you're often asked to talk about your experience as an arts leader and CMO, and I'd love to kind of get your perspective and help us unpack, like, of the stuff that Mike covered, like what does all of this mean? Ground us in a little bit of what you learned from your experience leading the digital transformation at YBCA, and what drove you to, drive towards, like, develop this vision, drive the vision. What were you looking to address? How did you see Salesforce as a platform to help get you there? And what were some of the differentiators that sort of validated that this was the right path for you at that time at YBCA?
Awesome. Thanks, CJ. And thanks, Mike. That was so beautifully done and so seamlessly done. There was a lot there to navigate. I feel like I dreamt all of it when I think back to my experience leading marketing in the arts. And TJ, thank you for so many thoughtful questions. Let's unpack all of this because it's really important. And again, I want to thank everyone for what you do, for what your organizations do, for our cities and our economy. I was really taken by seeing that the arts brought $1 trillion into the US economy following the pandemic. And we want to keep that. We want to help you sustain that. We know what we all went through. I was in the middle of this during COVID. So TJ, what all of this means for me is that if we want to drive visitation, fundraising, engagement, we have to set our teams up for success. When I think about the climate we're in, when I think about, the Giving USA report, another year of declines in fundraising, the arts have always had a challenge in really being that critical donation for so many investors. I've always believed that the arts are essential. And for me, all of this means that we have to confront the role that data silos play in blocking our entire organization from moving forward, the role that inaccurate data plays in moving our entire organizations forward. And this image for me, which Mike and I worked on, I think it was a therapy exercise, when we are in these conversations and it is not pleasant to hear that everyone is having this problem. And this is, of course, not limited to the arts, but we ended up in a situation, right? Because we all, Mike got into this, the idea that we've all had our own budgets and we have our own needs, right, in our departments, but it has to end. What we're talking about today is really setting you on a path of really getting past this friction in our organizations. So what drove me, to your point about what drove me, because I got pregnant in the middle of this, I had no business wanting more work. But what drove me were the pain points of my team and, of course, my personal pain points. I'm always so ecstatic to see inbox because I think about the frustration that my CEO would feel in these conversations with our stakeholders and not having visibility into the donations and the activity of people making major gifts. She had a meeting with Jack Dorsey once, who gave us several $1 million in our organization, and not having the visibility, or our leaders having to be dependent on email to keep up with the activity of stakeholders. It's really not where we want to be as an organization. She was extremely frustrated with not really having a lens into key activities. And it was a lot for our staff to keep up with keeping our leadership briefed. We were batching and blasting emails. Not sure if anyone knows anything about that, but it's still a struggle for the nonprofit sector to really figure out how to get the right message to the right person at the right time. And that, for me, is one of the critical things that Salesforce is really set up to do. Our annual surveys told us as an organization that people didn't think we knew who they were. Our visitors did not feel like we knew who they were. Our performing arts patrons wanted nothing to do with our visual arts program. And I thought that was okay. We need to understand how people want to engage and how to really break through the noise. The nonprofits are sending more email than ever, 20% increase year over year. From 2022 to 2023, the noise is only going up. Additional pain points, our staff survey, and this is the one that got me the most. Our staff survey came back with almost 100% of our staff experiencing burnout. For myself, I was really taken by how long tasks would take, the manual work, the things that we couldn't get done quickly, knowing the immediacy as a marketer, knowing that retail companies figured this out, almost 15 years ago. We know what time means for engagement as marketers. And then the pandemic came. We had to lay off 40% of our staff. We all went through this as an industry, and we experienced a significant loss. Yes, we had to get through losing our people, but we also lost relationship history. And Mike touched on this as well, right? We've got to get past Excel spreadsheets. We lost so many contact records, but we lost the relationship history. We lost the context, right? We lost the ability to really understand how we could move forward coming out of crisis. And this confronted us with how we were operating, the business risk and how we were operating. So what do you do as a leader? I started thinking about quick wins. And we started tests. We started looking at solutions. We started looking at our requirements as an organization, and how, for me, I wanted to get us in the mindset of really thinking about what modern technology is today. Our staff really wanted systems that were going to help us move our organization forward. We started testing things. Nasira's on today. Nasira led my evaluations of so many of these tools. We fell in love with form assembly. We looked at Stripe. We started using Stripe for a specific program, saw the impact that would happen when we started to integrate new tools, modern tools, but a pattern. I started to see a pattern. Integrates with Salesforce. All of these tools that we were researching and finding that were going to get us across the finish line, help us present ourselves in a professional and a modern way to our community and to our visitors. They integrated with Salesforce. So many of these platforms integrated with Salesforce. I would say the most successful test that we ran was launching Eventbrite at the request of the New York Times, who we signed a partnership with to produce events. This was really to get our visitation up, and the ticketing flow They told us that it wasn't just about having Oprah and Barack Obama and celebrities and see. They really told us that the commerce experience was a big part of how they sold out events. They looked at our current system and they said, no, we want you to test Eventbrite on these events. And for the first time in the organization's history, we started selling out events in a consistent way. This was transformative, and I will never forget how it made my team feel to sell out events, to drive visitation, to be able to sign people in from their phone. We have to think about the impact that technology and innovation really brings to how our people feel. Insights and automation became their expectation. So my vision was to improve the experience of our team and our visitors, of course, but a huge focus for me was on our staff. What would help them collaborate better? I think, Mike, I counted about 8 or 9 times he said collaboration, right? We need to work from anywhere today. I have to tell you that I work in a company with 70,000 people, and I'm getting less internal email now than I did in an organization with 70 people. So let that settle in. How much time do we spend checking our inbox, trying to get through email? I would have to go through emails at night. I would have to spend several hours, and it contributed to my burnout. And that was real. My vision was to really think about how the workflows and automations that I learned that Salesforce brought to the table would dial up their efficiency. Mike mentioned generative AI, the prompts that we're seeing and what we're going to reveal at Dreamforce this year in terms of generative AI being integrated into platforms like Tableau are going to blow your mind. I can't express enough what's happening. And I wanted to be on the journey with an organization that is spending $2 billion and more in R&D. Mike talked about security. I wanted to really think about how much of a commitment this is and being on the right side of innovation. Our staff wanted more transparency around our data. They wanted more visibility, and that all roads led to a single source of truth. The biggest challenge for me was breaking down our data silos, getting everyone outside of those Excel spreadsheets. So in terms of differentiating factors, and this for me is the most important part of the question that you asked, TJ, every department, in fairness, right, where we've got things we've got to get done. We have our own budgets, we're looking at solutions, but we've got to slow down and talk about integration as an organization. And I encourage all of you to have someone sitting in your organization who is focused on integration. I had the analysts on my team and my marketing team run this entire process and own the idea of what it meant to really talk to the whole organization and get feedback, do a discovery. What are our requirements as an organization? And start to really dial back us moving too quickly and licensing things and start to look at integration. The strength with Salesforce for me, the aha moment for me was thinking about the iPhone and the smartphone without apps, thinking about not having the flexibility of going on to an app exchange or an app store as we know it with Apple, thinking about what it would mean to not have the freedom to integrate the tools I need to run my personal life. I want that for our businesses. I want us to have the flexibility to look at our requirements and think about what systems can connect into a central single source of truth. Our advantage, Salesforce, for me, when I ran an evaluation and I looked at the market, again, I kept seeing the volume of apps that really appealed to our organization and met our requirements. It really came down to having a lot of choices. And what you get with integration is more intelligence on each person. So now you can unlock, maybe you can get to that detail that's going to drive an engagement and drive someone to take action. So again, if the goal is fundraising and engagement, for me, we owe our marketing and fundraising teams, our entire organization, accurate data. That's where we need to get. So I'm so excited to be having this conversation, and I would love to make sure that we find time to dive into this more after today. But a great question, TJ, and I hope I answered all of that. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, that was awesome. And YBCA, so lucky to have you lead through that digital transformation, and obviously, Salesforce to have you now on the side leading the charge for arts and cultural.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, when I think about what I didn't know and what I know today, I want to make sure that everyone understands that they have to understand how technology is going to help them generate more revenue, how it's going to drive team collaboration and operational efficiency, and how it's going to help drive up your team performance, not just checking boxes and meeting requirements. And that's the importance of, I think, your role, TJ, the role that our consulting partners play, the significance of this decision is not just about configuring and implementation for me, it's about change management and adoption. And thinking back, if I knew what I knew today, I would have made sure that everyone in my organization understood the why a little bit better and the ROI. The ROI for me, there's so much transition. I exited my organization. I didn't get to see this through for the next couple of years as I wanted to. The ROI, if that's clear, if that's sitting with leadership, that can help us keep our eye focused on where we want to get. And TJ, I know that this is what you are so passionate about, helping organizations operationalize their data, understand the ROI. I'd love to spend the rest of our time today talking about how you're helping our customers understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when we think about operationalizing data, our specialty is really around taking ticketing system of record data from primarily ticketing systems and bringing that into Salesforce. And that can be a complicated lift, depending on the way that the ticketing system connects or doesn't connect with Salesforce out of the box. But getting that data into Salesforce in a way that you can start seeing it and start taking action on it. And when we talk about taking action, it's about guiding the venues in a way to take action that's going to drive ROI. Because when venues undertake these big programs, a lot of times the senior leadership team is saying like, hey, how are we going to get, this is a big investment. What benefits are we going to get as an organization? If we can help focus the team on some initial wins from an ROI perspective, it really helps adoption and infusing innovation throughout the digital transformation from the onset all the way through the end of, forever, essentially. And one of the ways that we help focus our clients on that is talking them through our engagement methodology. So our engagement methodology is called RFDS. It's a riff on the recency, frequency, monetary methodology that's out there. And ours is nuanced for venues, right? So what we do is we want to think about different segments. So a segment could be a first-time visitor or a repeat visitor or a member. And we want to think, okay, recency, how do we get this person to book now, right? Like, what are some of the things that we can do to try and get them to convert? Then we think about frequency. How do we take a first-time visitor and entice them to become a repeat visitor? How do we take a member or average membership visitation to go from 3 visits a year to 3.25 or to 4 visits a year? Duration for venues where this makes sense. How do we increase the length of stay, right? Get them to stay through a meal period, take advantage of some additional programming, an event, a docent tour, something like that while they're on site. All of those incremental engagement and touch points along the single visit significantly increase their propensity to recommend and repeat visitation. So we want to think about, how do we get them to stay longer and do more things? And finally, spend is sort of like interwoven throughout the journey of like, how do we deliver the right sort of commerce message at the right time to enhance the experience? And also, same goes for asking for donations and trying to pull them into sort of donor journeys. So that's how we think about RFDS. And just to put a little bit more meat on the bone, I've got some 3 examples for that. So, first example is, what we're looking for when we look at this, we want to look at who someone is, when someone is, where someone is as far as a channel, and deliver them a what. So here we have the Spears family. It's pre-arrival, and we want to send them an upgrade message. So, for example, they bought their tickets. Maybe they're coming in a week or a couple days. They're a first-time visitor. It's before their visit, so we're going to send them an email and we're going to promote, maybe a membership. or maybe an upgrade to an experiential component that they can add on. Another example could be the Martin family. This is an in-venue duration, right? There are a lot of folks that will go to museums in the morning and they leave before lunch. And what you may want to do is, this is a repeat visitor where you want to send them an SMS at like 11 o'clock to try and get them to stay through a meal period, and then let them know of programming that's happening after that meal period, right? So it's like, hey, did you know you could pre-order your food in the cafeteria today? Here's a URL, and you could have them pre-order their food. And again, that drives both per cap spend and increases their duration at the venue. And then the final sort of like example that we have is, we have Sarah Foster. It's her 5th visit, and we're going to give her a loyalty reward. And what's really cool about this is, it's not necessarily about loyalty as far as like you think about maybe your Delta Sky Mile points or something like that. At least that's what I think about. It's thinking about, how do you surprise and delight your most frequent visitors based on their visitation patterns, right? So maybe there's a loyalty reward on their 5th, 7th, and 10th visit or something like that. And one is a bring your friend discount, one is a retail discount, one's a merchandise discount, one's a special event discount. You could randomize those. You could pop them into, you know, different cadences. You could do some things that really help recognize the member for their visitation and get them excited about coming back again and again, and talking about, you know, hey, I just got this email that like, wow, this is surprising, and, you know, things like that. So that's the last one. Then, you know, as Valerie mentioned, you know, these are sort of individual journeys, and we're looking at them at Sarah Foster or the Martins and those families. But if we take a step back and we look at the power of automating these at scale, we can start to build out how much revenue we can unlock with our existing visitation habits, right? So if we look at what an ROI example might look like, you know, over on the right-hand side, we have attendance. So this is an example of a venue, you know, they got 1 million in attendance, maybe 20% of their attendance is membership, 10% is group. So that leaves you with about 700,000 daily visitors. And if an average daily ticket price is $20 and an average membership price is $90, the difference between those, if a $20 day person upgrades to a membership, is $70. And let's say we want to create a journey where after someone has visited, we know TJ bought a ticket, we know TJ's visited, we're going to provide now an email the day after and say, hope you had a great time, and did you know you can apply your ticket to a membership, right? If we can get 3% of those 700,000 people to take that upgrade, that can drive and unlock almost $1.5 million for the revenue in revenue for the organization in that one journey, because again, we're automating at scale. That also creates 21,000 more members. And then you think about all the other ancillary things that come along with membership of what the organization's already doing to bring them into the mission and engagement and stuff like that. You've done a huge service to the organization, and you've taken that A-frame sign that's typically everybody walks past on the way out that says upgrade today, and you've now put that in their pocket or put it on their desktop or their laptop when they come home. Another example of that would be a simple donation message, right? So let's look at it from the perspective of that. So I visited a venue on the 16th. Maybe 4 days later, I get an email that asks me to donate to the organization as part of the conservation fund or capital campaign to restore the theater or something like that. You know, again, if you had 700,000 day visitors, figure 2.5 people per order, you know, that's 280,000 daily ticket transactions in a year. If we can get 3% of those to take an average of a $15 donation, that generates net new 8,400 donors and $126,000 in donations. And those are numbers that move the dial for organizations. So these are the sorts of things that, you know, there's no more pulling lists and importing them and running them. These are, as guests are engaging and interacting with your venue, they are being automatically put in these journeys, and these automations are running in real time, and it can be incredibly valuable for an organization. So, so So I think I want to turn it back to Mike and Valerie to talk through the Q&A. But I think what we've shown here is, Salesforce isn't just a CRM. It's really a platform for, again, operationalizing your data, and the power behind Salesforce's innovation, automation, and the extensibility of that platform are ideally suited for the ecosystems that venues are quite frankly dealing with on a daily basis.
Amazing. Thank you, TJ. I love those real life examples that bring ROI and value to what we saw earlier, what we discussed earlier, because that's what we're all trying to achieve, right? Is unlocking ROI and moving our organizations forward by building margin to run the mission, right? We invite all of you to connect with us with any questions or thoughts you may have. Our emails are here on the screen. Happy to collaborate with you, share thoughts, and also learn from you. I mean, this is a collaborative practice, and we're all bettered by working together. We see a couple of questions in the chat. Maybe we could start there. Sorry, we didn't have visibility into that earlier. Let's go ahead and answer them. So the first one here from Caroline about, she said, I see you're demoing from NPSP and asking about the nonprofit cloud and ticketing integrations. So really good question. So we talked about ticketing partners a little bit more. This runs into Chris's question. So what ticketing and retail sales platforms work with Salesforce? So with respect to the decision between going with NPSP, which is the solution we've been using in the space for the last 10 plus years, or with the new nonprofit cloud, which I'll use the abbreviation of NPC to address. So NPSP versus NPC. So it really is a case-by-case, organization-by-organization decision. There's a lot of goodness that's coming out with the new nonprofit cloud, but NPSP remains to be a proven, tested, and great solution for many nonprofit organizations out there. Our ticketing partners are getting ready. We lead with Acme, Ticketure, Vivart, Elevent. All of them are getting ready for nonprofit cloud, and will have opportunities to bring their data into the nonprofit cloud NPC. So that will be available as well. So there's all good things coming in the future. So really excited to continue to support NPSP. We don't have an end of life date on the horizon. It's going to be around for a good amount of time. And then of course, excited to see what NPC drives for our nonprofit partners.
Yeah, and Mike, if you don't mind, I can take the ticketing. There's a question from Chris on what ticketing and retail sales platforms does Salesforce work with? And there are certainly ticketing and retail platforms that have managed packages, as Valerie was talking about, like that app exchange that are available. You can plug the app in and get data flowing one way, bi-directionally, and things like that. And a lot of those are preparing for nonprofit cloud. They're already available to work with nonprofit NPSP. But excuse me, I would say broadly, there are ways, there are ways to get that data out of ticketing systems and into Salesforce. It's something that we happen to specialize in. And sometimes you have to make some really hard choices about what data, the frequency of those integrations and things like that. But you can get it out, and you can get it into Salesforce. It's totally possible. There are limitations depending on, again, when we talk about how frequent, the level of fidelity of the data. When we think about all that transactional data and all that purchase history and how valuable that is to be able to automate journeys and understand and getting that 360 view of someone from not just a visitation perspective, but from a member, development, donor, volunteer perspective, we can absolutely do it. It's possible, and not just us, other people have capabilities too, but it's something that we are super passionate about and have done with lots of different ticketing systems.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we would love to know more about your specific requirements. We're happy to reach out after the session. But, obviously everyone has different requirements. We have a great list of who is leveraging what as well. So we can talk about, the experience that a lot of folks are having and what we're learning. And it continues to evolve. So would love to follow up and talk more. And I think we have